last one? No. So, okay. Well, I think it's very important, I'm still repeat for a second, I think it's very important that people understand, what I'm not saying is that the Republican leadership sold out. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the Republican movement collapsed. It had run out of things to do. It was no longer able to function effectively in the way it had, and it had nowhere else to go. And at the end of the day, it was a militarist organisation. The active volunteers were loyal to the Army Council, and the core supporters were families, friends, neighbours, who were loyal to the IRA, essentially. Sinn Féin, I would say, still isn't sort of a fully developed political party. I don't know if it ever will. But for most of the Trolls, it was just a sort of group for making announcements for the IRA. You know, the Catholic population in the north had a very weak trade union consciousness. They were on the periphery of the economy. Where people were involved in heavy industry and sort of thing, they were as a sort of discriminated minority who had to watch their step all the time. So they didn't have a very, very strong class structure to fight around, so they tended to be community structures. You know, I know very recently the British said that the British Army said they didn't beat the IRA, but that's not really true. They did beat the IRA, they beat them into the ground, and as I said, the thing ended in people just unable to bear the unending flow of blood. It was obvious to everybody that the IRA couldn't possibly win the struggle, and there seemed little point in. Now, why did they turn around into the opposite? Well, that's quite a standard. That's what Republicans do, you know, it's what they did the last time. It's where Fianna Fáil came from. You know, you get a military struggle, it's politically underdeveloped, it's petty bourgeois in nature, it doesn't have any class consciousness, it's attacked from the right, it falls from the right, and it becomes a right-wing movement. It's just, you know, I don't know if I'm going any further. What I'm saying is that it really is a political collapse. You know, people no longer remember what it felt like to think the way they thought like 10 years ago. They no longer remember that. There is obviously a disaffected minority. That disaffected minority is quite sizable. What's happened to Sinn Féin is that Sinn Féin's tended to hollow out. So in the early period of the peace process, it was able at certain points in negotiations to call for demonstrations and mobilisations, and it would get maybe 10,000 people out. Now if Sinn Féin were called a mobilisation today, they would get nobody. Because very gradually people realised that they weren't being mobilised to do something, they were just being mobilised as counters in a game that they weren't in charge of. I'll make one more point about that, which is Ed Maloney's book. Ed Maloney says people outside Ireland would be absolutely amazed if they were to understand how little discussion there was of the Good Friday Agreement. There was no discussion of the Good Friday Agreement. Nobody in the area I lived in knew what it said. The IRA had signed up to it. They couldn't bear any more what was going on. They were going to go along with it, whatever it was. Now, why does Britain hold on to Ireland? Well, this is sort of like, this question sort of in a different forms. It's been around since the start of the troubles. You know, why isn't there a United Ireland? Because United Ireland would be capitalist. British have no problem with capitalism. You know, it wouldn't be. Why don't they do that? And it's sort of like, you know, you have to start from what is. You know, the British have fought a 30-year war to stay in Ireland. They've then made an agreement, and the agreement is based on them staying in Ireland. And they've now got, you know, a situation set up which keeps them in Ireland indefinitely, and involves them in paying 5 million a year to stay there, 5 billion a year. So, to answer the question, you've got to turn it to say the British are determined to stay in Ireland. Why is that? Well, there's two sort of answers to that. One is, you can't imagine Britain being indifferent to Ireland. You can't imagine the British state saying, well, there's Ireland over there, you know, we don't really care what happens in that country, you know. British do care. You know, one of the big fears was always the Irish Cuba. You know, just reflexively, Britain would control Ireland. It does control. It controls the south to a very large extent, as well as the north. Now, the mechanism of that control is to a large extent historical. It turns out that the way in which it controls Ireland is by having a military base there, or one of the ways, not the only way. And that military base depends on a sectarian state that is set up. And it's just not historically easy to take the stone you're standing on away and stand on some other stone, because for a while you wouldn't be standing on any stone at all. Now, it's not fixed in concrete. You know, if the IRA had come close to pushing the British out, then maybe the British would have tried some other mechanism. But the IRA never came anywhere remotely close to pushing the British out. And if you look at the 30-year documents, the British cabinet never ever discussed withdrawal from Ireland. They discussed an independent Ulster, they discussed all sorts of strange things, but they never ever discussed a united Ireland, ever. Last thing, Catholic Protestant unity. I'll do that fairly quickly. There's I'll give you two answers, right? First one is a local writer was on a programme a while back, and he made a very, very funny comment. He said, "You've got to remember how much energy it takes to be a bigot." You know, if you're a racist, it's dead easy. You just look around at people and say, "I'm a racist." There you are now. But if you're a bigot, you have to go through the preliminary thing of finding out who the other person is before you can start discriminating against them. So, you know, religious sectarian bigotry involves that level of energy. And because it involves that level of energy, it tends to decay. You know, there are examples all the way through the history of the north of Ireland of, you know, where there are industrial struggles and other forms of struggles. The sectarianism tends to fade away, and there's an attempt at class unity. Those attempts always fail. They always fail because the state is built on sectarianism, and that sectarianism is continuously reinforced. I'll give you a very quick example. The very, very first demonstration I was involved in, and it doesn't go back as far as he said it does, but it actually does. It actually, I think, if I can say this very bluntly, I think it goes back to 1967. And in 1967, my organisation, I think it was 1968 actually, my organisation said, class unity, economics, just tra-la-la. We organised a protest about a rise in bus fares. And actually the rise in bus fares was incredibly unpopular. So we called a rally at the City Hall. We got a crowd of over 10,000 people, all protesting to this increase in bus fares. And not only was it a crowd of 10,000, 5,000 of them were from the Shankill Road and 5,000 from the Foss. So we thought we'd got it made. 5 minutes into the rally, the RUC formed up, drew their batons and attacked the crowd. And they battened them up Royal Avenue, and when they got to the top of Royal Avenue, they battened them up the Falls Road. All of them, the Catholics and the Protestants. And they beat their heads in. And what happened was that the Protestant people on the demonstration, who'd had their heads cracked in, went home and stayed in their houses for 2 weeks till all signs of their injury had died away, because they couldn't possibly go out into the neighbourhood and say, I was on a Fenian demonstration and I was attacked by the RUC. You know, their life wouldn't be worth living. So, you know, by that simple expedient, which was, you know, a routine, because it happened in the outdoor relief strikes and everything like that by back in the 30s. I wasn't there for them. You know, so that's, you know, it is, you know, it's something that by itself would fade away, but the structure of the state is designed to make sure it never fades away.
Okay, any contributions?